and welcome to episode 37 of the Giddy podcast. I am Helen, as always, and I'm coming to you from Dundee in Scotland, where I live with my husband Tom and my two boys, Arthur, who's 5, and Jasper, who's 2. Today is the 3rd of January 2019. And yeah, I haven't podcasted since the beginning of December, so apologies for that. Vlogmas got in the way completely, so you haven't actually had a proper full podcast throughout December. But if you're anything like me and you've spent most of December watching Vlogmas videos, you won't have had a chance to watch any full podcast episodes anyway. I've got so much to catch up on. Anyway, hello and welcome. Welcome back to all my existing viewers. Thank you so much for coming back and putting up with a month's podcasting break. Although it doesn't really feel like a break with all Vlogmas and everything, but yeah, a month's podcasting break, we'll call it that. And welcome to anyone that's new. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. I hope you enjoy my little corner of crafty craziness. So what else do I need to tell you? What do I always forget about? Places you can find me. I am going to start, which I've done for the last couple of episodes, I think, putting up a screen before I even start talking to you with all the places you can find me, because I always forget to tell you. And I just think that'll be a bit easier. But I am the dyer behind Giddy Yarns, for those of you that don't know. So yeah, that's about it. That's about me and the excitement. Let's get into it. What have I got for you this week? So first of all, I have a very exciting announcement. I've got a couple of finished objects to share with you. I'm going to talk a little bit about my Make 9 plans for 2019. I've got some new cast ons to share with you. I've got a bit of yarny goodness, and then I'm going to finish off with a little bit of shop news. You may have noticed that works in progress were missing in that section, and that's pretty much because all of the works in progress that were works in progress previously, I haven't really worked on. I've been casting on all the new things. So I thought I would just leave those because they haven't seen any work since I last podcast, apart from maybe an inch on the sleeve of a jumper. So I will share them again when they've had a bit more work done on them. So we'll just have the excitement of new cast-ons today instead. So let's start with announcements. So over December, my YouTube channel gained lots of subscribers. It kind of blew me away, and we have hit over 500 subscribers. I think we started the beginning of December with about 450, and we've ended December with about 540. So that is massive. So I thought I would have a little giveaway to celebrate reaching that 500 subscriber milestone. I'm going to be hosting it. Sorry, I'm looking down here because I've got my little notes about the giveaway down there. I'm going to be hosting it in the Ravelry Group. So head on over to Ravelry, and it's the Giddy podcast group on Ravelry. I will link it down below because the Ravelry Group is also somewhere that you can find show notes for the episode, which again, I've forgotten to say. And yeah, show notes for the episode can be found in the Ravelry Group, and they can also be found on my website, which will all be linked down below in the drop-down bar. Let's try and be professional. Yeah, so the giveaway will be hosted over in the Ravelry Group. Please make sure that you're a member of the Ravelry Group and that you're a subscriber on podcast. Subscriber on podcast? That's not what I mean to say, is it? Yeah, well, that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's go with that. And I will put a question prompt in the Ravelry Group, and I'm going to ask you, what was your favourite project in 2018? In 2018, what was your favourite project? And that can be anything. I mean, obviously I'm kind of gearing that towards knitting and crafting and crochet projects, but yeah, if you've had some other kind of project which blew you away and was your favourite, then please come across and share it. That would be lovely. And I'm going to put together a little prize. I think the prize will probably be a mini skein bundle from my January minis that aren't quite released yet. And also I might put together a Christmas sock set because I've got a few little Christmas colourways left over, I think. If I have, then I will put together a Christmas sock set. If not, there'll be some kind of sock set. So basically it's going to be a mini bundle and it's going to be a sock set as the prize. Anyway, head on over to the Ravelry Group and enter, and on the next podcast I will announce the winner and I will send you your prize. That's basically it. Oh dear, right, I'm so out of practice. Okay, so that's all the announcements. Let's just go straight into finished objects then. Finished objects is a bit of a funny one this week because I've got one finished object that I can show you, but I actually finished 3 things in December. So I'll start with what I can show you, and that is a pair of mittens that I knit. They have been worn, so they are not pristine, but here they are. And this is a pattern by Tin Can Knits. I believe it's the Maize mittens. It's part of their Simple collection, which have the kind of the garter panel. So you've got like the oats cowl, the barley hat, and these are the Maize mittens. And I think there's a whole range in their Simple collection which are free patterns. But yeah, I'm pretty sure these are the Maize mitts. Which is by Tin Can Knits, as I said, and I knit these out of Lollipop Guild yarns, and the colourway is Mums Are Like Dads But Smarter, and it was a Mother's Day colourway a couple of years ago that Tom picked me up. Now these are a worsted weight pattern, and what I've actually done, I don't know if it will focus well enough for you to be able to see, what I've actually done is I've held the fingering weight yarn double. I've held the fingering weight yarn double to give me roughly a worsted. That seems to work for me. Yeah, to give me roughly a worsted weight yarn. I've done it a few times with a few different projects, and it always seems to work quite well for me. And yeah, they're lovely and cozy and warm and just what I need at the moment as it's starting to get colder in Scotland. Although apparently people keep saying to me that it's been a really, really mild winter, which, yeah, so far I'd say it's not been too bad. It's definitely been colder than it was in London, but not necessarily as cold as I was expecting, if that makes sense. Although saying that, it is like 1 degree out today, and we've still got the frost on the ground that we had yesterday morning. Anyway, yes, so Lollipop Guild yarns is the yarn, and I love the effect that holding 2 strands together gives you, because it kind of removes all of the pooling, and it just gives you a sort of a really fun mild effect. So that is my first finished object, and then the second finished object I will be able to put a photo up for you, and that is my Land of Sweets cowl that I knit throughout December, which is a pattern by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade, and I used the advent calendar that I had from Down Sheepy Lane. We swapped advent calendars this year. She had one of my Giddy Yarns advent calendars, and I had one of her Harry Potter Down Sheepy Lane advent calendars. And yeah, throughout December I knit the Land of Sweets cowl using all of the colourways from her advent calendar, but I gifted it to my mum for Christmas. So I was able to get a decent finished object picture of it before I gifted it. Although actually no, technically I think I gifted it and then took it back to take the photo. Anyway, so I will share that photo with you so that you can see it. But it was such a lovely knit, and I would definitely knit another one. And then the third thing I finished, I can't show you at all. I knit a cowl in December for my uncle, who technically it was meant to be his Christmas present last year, but I failed to get it done, so I got it done for this year, because my aunt and uncle were staying with us for Christmas. So I'd knit my aunt, which if you are a regular viewer of the podcast, you'll have remembered me knitting the Tulle Shawl by Helen Stewart, and I put beads in the lace section, and I knit that earlier in the year, but I hadn't got round to blocking it, and I hadn't got round to sending it to her. So in the end, I knit this cowl for my uncle, and I knit the overtone cowl by Tin Can Knits. And again, I'll put in a picture of the cowl, but it's not the one that I knit; it's the one for the pattern. I hope that makes sense. And I knit it using Drops Merino, so you know, nothing fancy, but sort of a good hardy yarn that he'll be able to stick in the washing machine and won't worry too much about taking care of, if that makes sense. But anyway, I kind of knit it for him, and then when they turned up just before Christmas. So they arrived on the 23rd. I gifted them those. I had them all wrapped up and under the Christmas tree to give to them before Christmas, so that at least they got last year's Christmas presents before Christmas this year. It may only have been by a day, but they got them. Okay, so now I was going to talk a little bit about my Make 9 plans. And I don't know if you've seen this anywhere. It's kind of an Instagram thing, I think. It's the Make 9 challenge. And the idea is that you come up with 9 projects that you would like to create in the coming year. I did it last year, and I think I completed maybe 4 of them, and 2 of them are whips. 2 of them didn't even get cast on, and 1 of them got frogged. So I didn't do great. But Emma of Eldenwood Craft podcast is once again hosting a Make 9 make-along for 2019. So I'm going to give it a go again. But what she's done this year has been slightly different in that instead of requiring you to specify patterns that you want to knit, she's actually asking that you can choose objects. So you could, for example, say you wanted to knit 3 shawls, 2 hats and a pair of socks. I know that doesn't add up to 9, but you know what I mean. So I've kind of gone a bit of a mix, and I've got a few specific patterns that I want to knit, but I've then also got a couple of kind of general things that I want to knit as well. Can you hear Jasper crying in the background? I think Tom's coming up. Everyone is home, by the way. I am hiding upstairs in my office / spare bedroom. I wouldn't even say / craft room because it's not. Office / spare bedroom. While I record, but Jasper's supposed to be having a nap. Tom is home still from work. He's not gone back. He goes back on Monday. And they're doing some Lego downstairs. So yeah, we may have some interruptions. Apologies about that. Anyway, let's share with you my Make 9 plans. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop up on the screen my Make 9 grid while I talk about all of the things on it, if that makes sense. I may put up individual pictures while I'm talking about them, but that's all going to be done afterwards in editing. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do. But basically, you probably won't see my face for the next little bit, which is quite good. Okay, so my Make 9 grid, here it is. So as you can see, there are 9 items or 9 things that I kind of want to make. So starting at the top, I am planning on making the honeybee dance socks, which were part of Helen Stewart's Curious Handmade Sock Society last year. I knit 2 of the patterns from the club last year, and there's still another 3 or 4. Anyway, I didn't knit the whole Sock Society last year. I'd intended to, but then life got in the way and other projects got in the way. So I'm planning on knitting those this year. I haven't necessarily picked out yarn for it, but it will be kind of a shop from stash kind of thing. And then the next thing I'm planning on knitting is a newborn vertebrae for a friend who's having a baby. It is not for me. There are no more babies coming in our house. So yeah, I'm planning on knitting a newborn vertebrae for my friend who's expecting a baby in February. So I kind of need to cast that on soonish. I've already got yarn picked out for that. I've got a skein, which was kind of a test skein for one of my fade kits, my gradient party fade kit. So it's a grey with multicolored speckles, and they don't know whether they're having a boy or a girl. And I just think that would be a really wearable colour as a kind of a neutral gendered kind of, a neutral gendered kind of item of clothing for the baby. So yeah, so that's my next plan. Then I've also got on there the Tender Heart pullover, which is a Tin Can Knits pattern. And this was actually on my Make 9 for last year, but I never got round to casting it on. And this is planned to be knit for Arthur. So again, I'm planning on knitting it this year for him. I'm hoping, really, I'd like to get it knit soon, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little look at how much yarn I bought and whether I can get out of, because I already have the yarn for this. I've got some Drops Big Merino, which is their DK weight. merino blend yarn, which is such a good workhorse yarn for kids. And you know, I tend to wash it in the washing machine, but I do tend to wash it on a wool cycle with my socks and stuff like that, just to give it a bit more care. But yeah, it can go through the washing machine, it's not an issue. But anyway, I have the yarn for it, but obviously I bought the yarn for the kind of 5 to 6 age size. And if I'm unlikely to get it cast on before February, then I'm probably going to look at knitting the 6 to 7 size instead. So I just need to make sure that I do have enough yarn for that. But that is definitely on my list of things to knit this year. And then the next thing is kind of a general thing. So I have plans to knit some hats this year. I've got a couple of skeins of yarn that I picked up at Nottingham Yarn Expo from Black Elephant. I've got 2 skeins of DK with the plan to knit a hat for myself and a hat for Tom. Not matching. I just happened to pick up 2 skeins from the same the same place. I'm not doing matching hats. So yeah, a hat of some kind. I want to knit at least one of those skeins into a hat, hopefully both, but for the purposes of my Make 9, we'll go with one of them. And then again, a bit more specific, is an exploration station shawl. I have wanted to cast on an exploration station for years. I have got yarn now set aside for it, which I think I've shared before on the podcast. So this is definitely a big plan for 2019. I would really like to get my exploration station on the needles and hopefully off the needles before the end of the year. And then the next thing, again, this is quite general because I haven't decided on a pattern, but I would like to knit a garment for me. Obviously, if you're regular viewers of the podcast, you'll know how slow I am at knitting garments for myself. I have had 3 garments on the needles and I've only ever finished 1. I am 2 sleeves away from finishing my 2nd garment, and my 3rd garment, I haven't even got to the separating for the sleeves bit yet. But, you know, these projects will continue. It's just a case of finding time and then I'll come back to them. So yeah, I would like to knit some kind of garment for me, but I don't know quite yet what garment that's going to be. So I've kept it general. Okay, so then the 7th thing, I've lost count now. The 7th thing I want to knit is a Dust of Snow wrap, which is a pattern by Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade, and it was actually part of this year's knit vent. And it's designed to be knit with a 20-gram advent calendar, but I wanted a bit more control over my colours than that. So I will be doing it with sort of leftovers. You need approximately 14 grams of each colour, I believe. So I've kind of set aside a load of minis and a load of leftovers and caked them all up with the aim of using them for the Dust of Snow wrap. And I have actually cast that on, so I will share that with you a little bit later on. But what I'm planning on doing with the Dust of Snow is spreading it out throughout the year. But again, I'll talk about that a little bit later on. I've got an itchy nose, sorry. Okay, so then my 8th thing for my Make 9 is the Forever and Always socks. This is a pattern by Danielle George of Little Bobbins. And I loved this pattern. It was part of her, I believe it was called the Vintage Love Story collection. But she did the patterns individually, and I fell in love with these Forever and Always socks. They've got a fantastic kind of cable down the side, but half the cable is garter stitch and half of it is stocking stitch. So they are on my list of socks to knit this year, definitely. Again, I'll be shopping for Stash for those. I'm sure I've got some yarn in Stash that would work beautifully. But yeah, there are another pair of socks that I want to get knit. And then the final thing on there is, again, it's another one from last year, and that is the Selby Mittens by Skein Deer. And for those of you that have watched the podcast recently, you'll know that I did actually have these on the needles at one point, but I have frogged them. They were coming up too small. They were far too tight. I wasn't loving the order that I'd put the colours in. And basically I just wasn't loving them, so I wasn't working on them. So I've ripped them out. They have been frogged. And I will be casting them back on again on larger needles, and I'm going to reverse the colours so that the purple is the background colour and the oatmeal is the main colour. But But yeah, they will be back on my needles again at some point this year because I still really want the finished object. But anyway, that is my Make 9 for 2019. So we'll see how I get on with it. If I'm organised and sensible, then maybe throughout the year I'll give you little updates every so often. And I will let you know kind of where I am on my Make 9 progress. But realistically, I'll probably completely forget to do that. I'm not that organised. Okay, so let's move on then to some new cast-ons, because as I said at the beginning, I don't have any works in progress to share with you this week. For those of you that are new to the podcast, the way I tend to do it is obviously I have finished objects and then I have works in progress, and works in progress tend to be things that you've seen on the podcast previously. And then I have new cast-ons, which are obviously, as the name suggests, new and you haven't seen them before. So this week we only have new cast-ons, but I do have 4 new cast-ons to kind of share with you, or maybe 5. There's one I didn't put on my show notes. So I have 5 new cast-ons to share with you. And I'm going to start with what's living in this bag here. And this is a lovely bag from Duckpool Lane, I believe. I'm probably going to get that wrong. Has she got her name in it anywhere? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was Duckpool Lane. I won it in the Treasure Chest, one of the Treasure Chest raffles in October. And it's just a really good sized bag for this project. And living in here is my Dust of Snow wrap. Now, as I said, I was casting this on, and my plan for this is there are 24 colours to go into this wrap. So I am aiming to spread this project out throughout the year, and I'm going to add 2 colours a month to the project. So I'm hoping that I don't, you know, 1 month, what I don't want to do is 1 month get carried away and cast on loads and then get fed up with it and bored and not want to do it. So I'm going to try and limit it so that I only add 2 colours a month. But for now, this is where I'm at. I have finished the first colour, and I've just, I don't know if you can see, I think it's that side's the right side. You probably won't be able to see yet, but I've just done the first stripe of the second colour. And I probably won't be able to remember which yarns all of these are throughout the year, but we'll see how we get on. But this one is West Green Loft yarns in the Paramore colourway, I believe. I think so. Which I knit a pair of socks out of earlier in the year. And I'm holding it double with a mohair as well, just in this kind of neutral colour to soften it down a little bit. And the mohair is a Lion brand one, I believe. I got gifted this in a fibre share package. I'm just looking, I've got another ball of it in here. There we go. So it's, yeah, they're Lion brand silk mohair. So it's a 70% Super Kid mohair, 30% silk. Yeah. And I've got a whole bag here. Let's see if I can do this without dropping everything. I've got a whole bag of, I knew I was going to drop something, of Caked Up minis in here, ready to add in to this. So the second colour going in is this one here, which is part of my Turning Tide kit, I believe. Let me just pop that one down on the floor. And then I can't remember what's going next, but I took a photograph with kind of my plan for the first half at least. But I do love the way, oh, it's all got so tangled. Look, it's a tangled mess. I do love the way that holding it with the mohair really softens the colour. Let me see if I can actually show you. So there you go, there's the colour without the mohair. And then with the mohair, it really, really softens the colour. So yeah, so this is a long-term project. I'm planning to have it finished by Christmas next year. Well, no, Christmas this year even. But it's lovely. It's a very therapeutic knit. It's so simple. And just, yeah, really relaxing. So I'm trying to spread this out, trying not to get carried away. But you know, it's the 3rd of January and I've already started the second colour. So we'll see how well that goes. Okay, so my second new cast on, if I can shove this all back in here. Everything's a bit spread out. Let's go with this one. So living in a project bag that's hitting everywhere. A Christmas themed project bag. This was one I made last year for the shop, which, yeah, we don't get bags made in the shop anymore. Is my Christmas Eve cast on. And I cast on the candy cane socks, which are a pattern. I'm just looking for the yarn labels and the yarn and trying to get everything out of the bag. So organised. Let's pop that there. No, dropped it all on the floor again. Oh dear. Right. Christmas Eve cast on. Candy cane socks. Here we go. So I have just added the heel in. I'm going to put these on my hand to see if I can just stretch out the pattern a little bit and you can see the candy canes. So this is a pattern by, oh, can I show you the candy canes? I don't know. There we go. This is a pattern by Ellie of Craft House Magic, and they're called the candy cane socks. It's a really simple sock, but then it's just got this lovely cabled candy canes all the way down the front. And I'm knitting this out of Down Sheepy Lane in her Holiday Cheer colourway, which is one of her Christmas colourways. And I picked this one up at the Socks on the Beach marketplace when we were both vending together. And I've just popped in a kind of a deep purple heel because I just thought that looked really nice with it. And this is just a Drops Fable. But I'm really enjoying these. They've obviously not got as much progress over Christmas as I would have liked, but just because, you know, kids. And also, to be fair, I picked a pattern with cables, so it was always going to be a slower progress. But I am really, really enjoying them. Here's the yarn caked up. Although my ball winder is being a little bit temperamental at the moment, hence it's mostly just got like yarn guts sticking out the top. But yeah, absolutely beautiful. And as I said, that's Down Sheepy Lane. There's her label in the Holiday Cheer colourway, and it's an 80-20, so it's an 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, which is a really nice blend. I don't often knit with like an 80-20. I tend to stick to 75-25, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm really liking the stitch definition. See if I can show you that. Yeah, there we go. It's knitting up really, really nicely. So that's my next new cast on. These will hopefully get finished in the next month. I'm hoping to get them done by the end of January, because I kind of feel like Christmas socks that were cast on Christmas Eve should be done by the end of January. But as usual, we'll see what happens with that. And then I also cast on another pair of socks. I cast these on when we were heading down to Edinburgh for the Christmas markets. Mostly just because I wanted some simple car knitting, and I've not got very far with these, to be completely honest, but I thought I would share them because they are a new cast on and they will see some work on them. But these are the Jemima socks, which is a pattern by, let's turn them the right way up, shall we? Here we go. Little focus, there we go. The Jemima socks, which is a pattern by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears. Part of her Peter Rabbit sock collection that she released last year. And I'm knitting these out of Golding Yarns, and this is some old stash. This is Golding Yarns, and it was part of a Back to the Future mystery yarn club that she did probably a couple of years ago now. And the colourway is called Great Scott, and it is just it is a 75-25. But here it is caked up, and it came with a coordinating mini, which has also decided it's going to just be yarn guts everywhere. But there they both are together, and I'm going to use the mini for heels and toes. But yeah, it's knitting up quite fun. It's not knitting up how I was expecting it to knitting up. You're kind of getting a kind of spiral of the purple, if you can see that. But I think they're going to be really fun, and it's a really simple textured pattern, so it is quite mindless once I get into it. But they might be, you know, just some simple socks to work on. So yeah, so that's my third new cast on. And then I've still got one more new cast on. But this next new cast on, oh no, I've got two, well, I've kind of got two more. I'll start with this one. I'll go with this one. So this here's a bit of a random cast on. But we went for a family walk yesterday and it was freezing cold yesterday. I mean, it was properly icy. I think when we left the house, it said it was -2. And Jasper is not the most warm-blooded of children. He feels the cold. And we thought we'd bundled him up properly, but apparently not, because he spent pretty much the whole walk screaming and we ended up coming home early. Because, you know, that's how life goes really, isn't it? Arthur is so warm-blooded, even though we've moved into a... Oh, sorry, losing my voice. Even though we've moved into a house now, rather than our ridiculously warm flat, he still gets up in the morning and pretty much takes his trousers off and goes and sits downstairs. And we're there thinking, you must be freezing. But he's not. He's perfectly happy and perfectly fine. Jasper, on the other hand, is, yeah, a lot less warm-blooded. So anyway, long story short, he got really, really cold. And I was trying to work out what I could make him to keep him warmer. And now Arthur has a cowl that I knit him ages ago. And I was thinking I could knit Jasper a cowl, but then he kind of needs a slightly warmer hat as well. So what I'm actually going for is a balaclava. And I had a little look on Ravelry for some patterns, and I found a really cute little balaclava. It's called a pixie balaclava. I can't say the word. A pixie balaclava. And it's got kind of a little point. The hat comes up into a little point. And then it comes down obviously here, but the whole face is on show. It's not just one that goes across your eyes. The whole face is on show. So it's kind of like a bonnet with a neck bit. Anyway, I'm hoping I've got enough yarn for it. I didn't quite look at yardage and stuff, and I'm holding two fingering weights together. Well, it's the same yarn, but I'm holding it together. So I'm knitting it out of this yarn here, and this is a No Makers yarn, which I was gifted last Christmas, and I'm sure I had the label here somewhere. It's on the floor. Ah, I need it off the chair. I got it. So yeah, here you go. It's a No Makers yarn, which is an American brand, and it's called Under the Tree. So here you go. It's got a born on date, which I always quite like with theirs. So it was 2017, Christmas 2017 colourway. And it's one of those skeins of yarn that's kind of sat in my stash for a year, and I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do with. It's an MCN, so quite luxurious for a child's bonnet, but hey. But yeah, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with it, but I've made a good start on it. So here is how it's knitting up. It's a ribbed bonnet, and I think, so this bit here is the bit that's going to go around his face, kind of like that. Does that make sense? This is going to look ridiculous. It's kind of going to go like that, and then it joins at a point with the ribbing that goes in the other direction. If you can see that there, that's the bit that kind of goes up the side of the head, and then eventually it'll come to a point. But I'm quite enjoying it, and I quite like the way that the yarn looks held double. So hopefully I'll have enough yardage to complete it all in the same yarn. Otherwise, I might just have to, I don't quite know what I'll do. I might just have to have a look and see if I've got any sort of plain yarn that I could do for the neck bit or something like that. But hopefully we should be all right. I mean, a hat in general usually only takes about 50 grams of yarn, so hopefully, yeah, we'll see. We will see. But yeah, that's the other thing that I cast on, and I'm hoping to kind of get this done quite soon before it gets too cold and he spends more walks screaming. And then the last work in progress I was planning on sharing with you was my Battenberg blanket. And this was another Advent project, which is just living in a little box at the moment. This was another Advent project. All of the minis that I got from my swap and the leftovers from my Down Sheepy Lane Advent calendar, after I'd added them to the Land of Sweets cow, have been turned into squares. So I have a large box of squares here. I'm just trying to get stuff out of it so that I don't spill it completely everywhere. Here we go. So I have a large box of squares here. Oh, there we go. Managed to drop it. Oh, look, I've got a chocolate in there. That's nice. Yeah, I have a large box of squares here. And I have started joining them into the blanket. So this is the Battenberg blanket, which is a pattern by Sandra Paul, I believe she's called, of Cherry Heart, and she has the Cherry Heart podcast. But you can find information on the pattern on her website, which I believe is cherryheart.com, but also on Ravelry. And I'll link to it in the show notes. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I've made my squares slightly bigger. I believe the pattern calls for 3 rounds and I've done 4 rounds. But yeah, I've no idea how big I'm going to make this. I'm just going to kind of join it. I think I'm going to square it off soon, because at the moment I've just been adding stuff in. I'm thinking of squaring it off kind of here, and then I'll work out how wide I want it and how long I want it, and yeah, just start adding all these squares in, and all my scraps kind of throughout the year will go in, and that will just be really nice. Kind of a nice project to have just on the go when you need something relaxing. So yeah, so that's my Battenberg blanket and the progress on it so far. It doesn't look a lot, but then when you look at all of that, it's a bit more than it seems. And I'm just joining it with some grey. This is one of my rain cloud colourway, which I use quite a lot to have as kind of a neutral for joining things. So yeah, that is the plan anyway, and that is the blanket, which will hopefully continue to grow throughout the year. And that is all my new cast-ons. Now, I was lucky enough over Christmas to receive some lovely yarn as Christmas gifts. So I thought I would share a little bit of yarny goodness. Now, I didn't ask for yarn this year at all. I thought to myself, I won't ask for yarn for Christmas because it's kind of predictable and it's what I'm going to assume, you know, what people are always going to assume I want. And there were a few other things that I kind of wanted, a few random things. I mean, Tom and I mostly were meant to be just doing big gifts. So he wanted just his stand mixer. I got a new coat and some new shoes. Things we needed really. And then everything else was going to be for the kids. But Tom and I kind of agreed that, well, say Tom and I agreed. I suggested in December that instead of getting each other sort of additional Christmas presents for under the tree, we did each other a little stocking and came up with kind of 5 different things that we could put in the stocking. And he agreed to it straight away, no worries at all. Come Christmas morning, I opened my stocking from him to discover that he has been purchasing yarn throughout the year and squirreling it away for Christmas and didn't tell me about it. So a lovely surprise. He actually bought me 4 skeins of yarn. And he did well. So to start off with, I don't know if you remember, but earlier in the year, he went to New York. And if you remember from the time, he actually picked me up a skein of yarn at Woolen in New York, which I shared on the podcast with you. Well, while he was there, he picked me up another skein of yarn. He picked me up this skein, this gorgeous skein, of Fuse Fibre Studio, and this is absolutely stunning. This is a 75/25 merino nylon, and the colourway is Carousel, and it says it's hand dyed in Connecticut. So that is lovely to get a skein of yarn that I wouldn't be able to get in the UK, and a stunning one as well. And then he also ordered me throughout the year 3 different skeins of yarn. So the first one he ordered, well, in no particular order, and excuse the crinkling, I've not actually unwrapped this one. Whoops. So he picked me up this lovely skein of Nora George, and this is in her Thistle colourway. And I believe that this was one that Nora George originally did for, well, that Tracy originally did for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. Last year, I believe she dyed up some skeins of this as a kind of an exclusive for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. But it's absolutely gorgeous, kind of those greens and purples. Really, really pretty. And again, this is on her sock base, so it's a 75/25 merino nylon. But yeah, so that was absolutely lovely. And then he picked me up 2 others who I've not had from before. So to start with, he ordered me a skein from Countess Ablaze, and I've not had any Countess Ablaze yarn before. And this is on her Lady Persephone sock base, which is a 75% blue-faced Leicester, 25% nylon. And I have a feeling it's going to be quite a fun pooly colourway. I need to open up the skein and have a little look at it. And I'm sure he got this just so that I would have to say the name on the podcast, quite possibly. So apologies to anyone who is offended by slightly vulgar language, but the colourway is called Twee Bollocks, and it's absolutely stunning. And then the last thing that he got me is from another company who I've not purchased from before, but have followed on Instagram and very nearly met in a couple of occasions, but just missed them. And that is Mr. B Yarns. And he picked me up this gorgeous skein of Photonic, I believe it's called, which is just this absolutely gorgeous teal. Really, really stunning. And this is on their Hiddleston 4-ply base, which is a 75-25 again. And yeah, it's just the most stunning semi-solid teal colour. And in fact, do you know what? This might have to be one of the pairs of socks. This could even be the Honeybee Dance socks, couldn't it? That needs something simple that's going to just let the colours pop. Anyway, and it comes with this lovely tea, which I'm looking forward to drinking. I haven't actually got around to opening it yet. Christmas has been so busy. I really do need to open up some of this yarn properly. And then the last thing wasn't purchased by Tom, but was included in my advent calendar from Debbie at Down Sheepy Lane. And that is this skein of gorgeousness. So yeah, as I said, it's Down Sheepy Lane. And this is called A Very Weasley Christmas. And this is actually on her MCN base, which is lovely, which is, I believe, an 80-10-10. So 80% superwash merino, 10% nylon, 10% cashmere. Yeah, absolutely stunning. Really pretty colours. So this again will probably become a pair of socks or something. I don't know, maybe even a hat. I always feel like an MCN is too nice to be a pair of socks. I feel like I wouldn't want to wear them because I wouldn't want to ruin them. So maybe a hat or something like that. Rhyming. I'm a poet and I didn't know it. Anyway, so that was all my yarny goodness from Christmas. I was very lucky and was not expecting to get yarn. I did also get, in fact, I'm going to have to show you, so just excuse me 2 seconds. At least I've got trousers on for a change. Not that I don't wear trousers when I podcast, but as I've mentioned before, often I'm podcasting in pyjama bottoms. But I have jeans on. Anyway, the other thing I got that was kind of yarn related was from my aunt and uncle, who picked me up this fun t-shirt, which says, "A lady never discusses the size of her yarn stash." Which I thought was really fun and will be a great one for shows and things like that throughout the year. So yeah, I was very lucky this Christmas, and I have a lot of people who know me very well. Okay, and then I just want to finish off, I just want to touch on a little bit of shop news for those of you that are stuck around. So first of all, the Giddy Yarns Film Club is currently available. Film Club is a self-striping yarn club inspired by films, obviously, and for 2019 all the films are Steven Spielberg films, although one of them's produced by, not directed by, but we're going with it. So the film club will be running opposite my cupcake club. Orders, it's open for orders in January, March, May, July, September, November. Hopefully I've got that right. And ships out February, April, etc. So the February instalment is inspired by Jurassic Park. And I'll put up the image which shows you the inspiration. At the time I'm recording, which is Thursday, this will probably get uploaded on Saturday, there are still a few spots available to pre-order for that. available to pre-order on a month-by-month basis. So if you miss it this month, then next month you'll be able to order. Alternatively, I'm offering just for this month 3-month sign-ups and 6-month sign-ups. So if you want to sign up for the whole year, you can do. And I've actually had a few people sign up for the year, which is amazing. I kind of thought I'd do it and see what happened, and I didn't really expect people to sign up for a whole year, but they have. So that's really fun. Anyway, so that's the film club. And what else? Minis, January's mini skeins, which is kind of what you can see behind me. I'm doing something a little bit different with the mini skeins this year. So rather than having my monthly minis, which are going to be were inspired by something to do with the month, each month my mini skeins this year, well, we'll see how it goes, but my plan is that each month my mini skeins this year will be inspired by a colour which will kind of relate to the month. So January is well known kind of for the January blues, the kind of wintry frostiness and stuff like that. So we're going with kind of blue themes this year. And the idea of this month even, and the idea is that you have kind of three tonal semi-solid colours and 2 speckled colours within that, and they're going to be kind of, the aim is for them to be kind of able to create like a gradient scrappy sock kind of thing from them. Yeah, that's my plan. Anyway, I'm just waiting on a little bit of equipment, which will hopefully arrive in the next few days towards the beginning of next week, so that I can use, basically I've dyed them as full skeins. Normally I dye them as minis, but I've dyed them as full skeins, and I've got a big reskeiner thingy coming, and I'm planning to make the minis. Yeah, new techniques, trying new things. Anyway, so that is the January minis. So I was hoping to have them available on the 9th, but it looks more likely that they're going to be going in the shop on the 12th. Of January. But yeah, and then my other aim, so each month I will be releasing the colour and releasing the mini bundles, but rather than them being kind of exclusive to the month, if I've still got some, they'll stay in the shop. So they're not quite as exclusive as my monthly minis. It's just that each month I will be adding a new colour. And if some of them are popular, I will also possibly, like the January ones, if they prove really, really popular, then there's no reason why I can't re-dye them later in the year, or for shows or anything like that. Anyway, the other thing that will be coming into the shop on the 12th of January is some one-of-a-kinds. I'm planning on having a little bit of time to experiment this month. I want to kind of try some new techniques, try some new methods, try out a few new things. Hopefully I'll create some new repeatable colorways in the process, but I'm also planning on January being a bit about experimentation. So there'll be a few one-of-a-kind kind of colorways coming to the shop, which again I will probably be putting in the shop on the 12th. And then the last thing is Valentine's yarn. We need to start planning. I am planning a Valentine's update on the 26th of January, and that will include full skeins and sock set kind of skeins and things like that. And they will ship kind of, well, they'll be all ready to ship, so they'll ship out straight away. So they should reach you well in time for Valentine's Day. But I'm going to have a range of kind of Valentine's colours. Although I'm kind of planning, what I did last year was I had a load of one-of-a-kind Valentine's colours, so I might do similar this year. I'm not sure if I'm going to create any repeatable Valentine's colourways. I am also considering doing some Valentine's self-striping. I've had a couple of people ask me about it, and I'm thinking of offering some Valentine's self-striping. I haven't quite decided yet whether that's going to be in the form of kind of a one-off sort of mystery pre-order, which is what I did last year, where you got 2 inspiration images and you could choose, well, no, you didn't even get inspiration images last year. I think I just gave the option of pastels or brights. But I think I would choose inspiration images this year, and I would dye up the stripes according to those. Or whether people would be interested in more of a kind of a ready to ship. So I've currently got a poll running on Instagram, although that will be finished by the time you see this, to see what people would be interested in, whether people want ready to ship stripes or whether they would rather have the kind of pre-order stripes. Yeah, So we'll see. That's my plan anyway. There will be some Valentine stripes. I just haven't quite finalised how I'm going to do it. Anyway, that's it. Although I could... So I've got 2 shows confirmed for later in the year, but I'm not 100% sure whether I'm supposed to tell people or not yet. I've confirmed them, and I've had emails telling me I've confirmed them, but the emails didn't sort of say... Whereas with Nottingham, the emails and the responses kind of said, we will be planning a big reveal, please don't tell anybody, blah, blah, blah. These ones haven't said that, so I'm assuming that actually I can kind of just tell you. But so far, I have got 2 shows confirmed for June. I have also got... Right, so let's start from the beginning. You're all getting a sneak peek if you stuck to the end. I'll announce these again nearer the time. March the 2nd, for those of you that are local to me in Scotland, March the 2nd, I will be having a trunk show at Bar, which is a local yarn shop in Stonehaven, which is kind of halfway between Dundee and Aberdeen. So I'm looking forward to that. I've not done like a trunk show before, where it's just been me, so that'll be quite interesting. I need to kind of find out some more details about it, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. April, I will be the featured dyer of the month at Perlerow in Cornwall, in Liscard, I believe. And I'm hoping, actually, we should be going down to Cornwall at the beginning of April to visit family. So hopefully I'll be able to get into the shop and actually see my yarn there, which will be amazing. And then, as I was saying earlier, I've got 2 shows confirmed for June, which I think I might be slightly crazy. But I am doing Leeds Wool Show on the 1st. Is it the 1st of June? I believe it's the 1st of June. It's the Saturday anyway, on the 1st of June. And I am also doing, the week after that, on the Sunday, I am doing Aberdeen Yarn Fest as well. So yeah, 2 weekends and 2 yarn shows. I may have taken on a little bit much, but I just need to be organised and it should be fine. And then hopefully I will have a couple more shows later in the year. I will be applying for Perth, as I'm sure many of you have guessed, and I may have mentioned before. Obviously, I have got no idea whether I'll get in or whether I'll get a space or anything like that, but just so you're aware, I will be applying for Perth. And I haven't quite decided yet whether I will apply to go back to Nottingham again or not. But I do like the idea of having some yarn shows that aren't in Scotland and sort of travelling for a few. But that will probably be my maximum this year. So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm headed at the moment for those of you that are interested. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. I need to tidy up the mess that I've made and I need to label up the Cupcake Club yarn. So yeah, I will see you all again, hopefully in a couple of weeks' time, if I can get my podcasting schedule back to where it should be. Anyway, until then, don't forget to come and enter in the giveaway thread in the Ravelry Group. Anyway, I will see you again soon. Bye.